Hello, Founderhub community, and welcome to today's AMA. Our guest for today is an amazing guest. We have Heini Zachariassen, who's the founder of Vivino. If you haven't heard of Vivino and have been living under a rock, Vivino is a fantastic wine app, probably the biggest wine app today, he can confirm. Over 30 million users. It started as a wine discovery app and then moved into an e-commerce platform. And I came across Heini, and he agreed to do this because he's starting his own YouTube channel called Raw Startup, and then he's interested in some of the metrics of how all this works. So Heini serves as board member and chief evangelist after he stepped down as CEO of Vivino, and I'm very curious about that story. And well, without further ado, Heini, welcome to our session.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me on. Thank you for that very nice introduction.
I'm going to start asking some questions. So as a reminder to the community, this is an AMA, so you guys can ask questions of your own. So you can do that on the YouTube live chat, or you can do that directly on Slack via our Founderhub community. A link is available on the video description. I'm going to prioritize questions from the Founderhub community, just as an FYI. But before those questions start coming in, I'd love to ask you, Heini, how's life after being CEO? Like when you have this amazing company still running and you no longer kind of see day-to-day operations?
You know, life is amazing, really. It's really quite a difficult shift to do that because you're completely immersed in something for, in my case, 8 years, living and dying for this company. So doing that switch was really, really hard, but I think it was the right decision. The company was turning into a company where operations were increasingly important, and for me, that was not my core, and there were definitely people out there that were much better than me. So we wanted to do that shift as soon as we found someone who was amazing.
Cool. And how, of all those things that you do now, how did you end up with a YouTube channel?
That's a good question, you know, and it wasn't set when I stepped down that I was going to do this, but really what happened, I know a lot of founders, I have good friends that are founders, and they said to me, hey, you got to be careful when you step down. There's going to be a bit of a hole that needs to be filled up. And sure enough, when that happened, I felt like, oh, wow, something's missing here. And like, I couldn't follow the numbers religiously anymore, because if I followed the numbers, I was going to tell people what to do. And I was not supposed to tell people what to do. So I have to back off the numbers and all those things. And then I said, okay, I got to fill it up with something and find something that you like, or else you'll end on board of some really, really boring company. So that's why I started this.
So cool. Yeah, so as a funny side story, I found Heini because he started ranking second for one of our main keywords on YouTube ads. I'm like, who is this guy? I'm gonna and then, well, here you are being our guest. Thanks a lot, and thanks again for joining.
So yeah, number second is not a spot I want to be in, so we're still working on that, obviously.
All right. All right, so our idea here with Founderhub is to help founders who are starting their businesses, who have their pitch deck, and maybe they're not ready to raise money. And this is a question I'm dying to ask you. How was your first round of funding for Vivino? So just to give everybody some context, Heini is from Denmark. Vivino at the very beginning was not a paid app, so everything that I talk about trying to raise money with revenue, probably they didn't have it. So how did you manage to get your first round of funding?
Yeah, sure. So so small correction. So I'm actually from a small island called the Faroe Islands, which is in the middle of the North Atlantic, 50,000 people, middle of nowhere. They'll be flying to New York pretty soon, so you have to go. But we started out in around 2010, and when we started out, obviously we didn't have enough. But I am a second timer, so I've started a company before. So for my partner and I, my co-founder, I said, hey, okay, we want to do this. I wouldn't say we had an easy time, but we had some people that had a little bit of money that trusted us. And they said to us, okay, you know, we believe in you guys. We think you can build this. So the first money that came in, we started building something and said, okay, we think we can do this. And that's the first rule here, is that you got to build something. Like, investors don't invest in ideas. You have to have more than that. Whatever that building is, it doesn't have to be big, but you got to show something. You got to show some progress all the time. So our first money in was one of our friends, was one of the two co-founders of Skype, Janus Fries, based in London. So I flew over to him and said, hey, we have this idea, we'd love to try this. And he knew us, he said, okay, I'll put some money on you guys. And from there, it's only just about building an amazing product and trying to get some traction. That's all.
So what was your vision for Vivino? What vision did you pitch at this point? I understood that the product eventually evolved into e-commerce, but that was not the original concept. Like, how developed was this business model at the very beginning?
Yeah, business model was an anecdote, really. My vision with this was, if you walk into a supermarket and see this wall of wine, you need to be able to know, is this a good wine or is this a bad wine? Like, 100% focus on solving that problem, which was a problem for me because I did not know anything about wine when we started. So I'm more of a tech software guy, and we wanted to build this product for me, meaning people that are like casual wine drinkers, not experts. So that was all the focus was on that. On the commercial side, it was pretty easy to sell that anecdote, saying, hey, we'll have millions of people using this app. You'll be sitting at a restaurant, you'll scan a bottle of wine, and then you'll buy 6 bottles. And that story just worked really well always, even though it took us several years before we started building it.
How do you go about? I'm curious. This is completely out of my scope. But how do you go about bringing in those customers? So you have Vivino has 30 million customers or 30 million users today.
Yeah, 35. Yeah.
How do you grow from 0 to 30 million or to the first million?
Yeah, exactly. So that's a great question, because that is really hard. But for us, it was all about the product. So we were extremely focused on a specific use case, and we think we found out what the key to that use case was. So we realized quickly that we had to ignore everything else except for the data. Data meaning, okay, is this wine good or is this bad? I want some information. So if you can, even though you don't have an amazing product, if you're the best product in the field, people are really quite forgiving. So our product in the early days was really not very good, but people said, yes, I like what they're trying to do. And then slowly keep staying ahead of the field, and then there is a chance you'll get growth. And you don't get thousands of installs every day in the beginning. So today we get 20,000 new users every single day, organically, no paid. But back then, you start by getting 30 users a day. Then you get 60, and then you get 150, and you just keep growing it. And you release all the time just to improve the product slightly every single week. So that's how we did it. And with this type of product, that's how I really believe it. We're very much a product guy, believing in building the best possible product.
Amazing. And the product, and if you haven't tried it out, go ahead. I remember this, Heini. I remember 2011. I was starting my first company back then, and there were all these wine discovery products. Actually, we were in an accelerator, and we had one next to us that was trying to build something. So Vivino at that point was just one of the many people, of the many different products trying to kind of grasp that field. How do people find you now? Is it because you're such a huge brand and they just discover you, or is it because of the App Store rankings? How do people find you?
Sure. So a couple of comments first. Actually, when you tried it out back then, when we launched, there was an estimated 600 wine apps in the App Store. And there was obviously a reason for that, because wine is a $300 billion industry, right? So it's much bigger than you think. It's much bigger than music and books and all those things, but nobody had really conquered it. So it made sense that a lot of people went for it. So how do people find us now? And we know this really well, and it's actually pretty simple. It's offline. It's people drinking together, and 75% of our users come through word of mouth. So I'm sitting at a table showing people this amazing product, and boom, we got a new user. And that happens 20,000 times a day.
Incredible. When do you?
My privilege, I would say. I'm very thankful for that.
When do you, as a company, so in this sort of fantastic story, right, where you became the best product in 600 companies trying to do the same thing. For which round of funding? So Vivino's latest round was $20 million, Series C, if I got that right.
Correct.
When did you have to figure out a business model? When does a pitch become, hey, or convert from, Hey, we're
Sure.
building this fantastic, the best wine app. When does that change to, hey, we have this business model that we need to scale?
Yeah. So rewinding a little bit. So if you look at the A round, at the A round, it was pretty clear that we were going to be somebody in the way that, okay, we got product market fit, we got decent traction, and we're going to end up on top, at least amongst the top 2-3. That was pretty clear when we did the A round. Okay, good. When you get to the B round, and again, this varies, but for us, we really want to show some kind of business. Maybe you've taken a corner out and said, hey, we've tested this and it looks like it works. You do not have to have it at scale. So when we launched our B round, we had very limited business model going. We had some, but at that time it was clear that we're probably the winner in the space. So now we own the space from a user point of view, and we show a little bit of a corner of a business model. That's where we were at. And but when you get to the C round, you definitely have to show that there is a real business model there.
So what is traction? You said traction, and obviously, I think, and maybe I'm wrong, but I think traction is what gets you to the next round. You prove that your product concept is working. What does traction mean for a Series A, and what does traction mean for a Series B?
Yeah, I think traction for a Series A means a clear product market fit. It means that your growth is, for a market fit, you'll see on the numbers. Like if you have a product that has some kind of virality. So what happened for us was that in 2012, we improved our product radically. We had a simple hybrid of an app before that. And then we launched a fully native app in April of 12. And we started improving that over the next 3 months. And the numbers just shot up. Like it was clear that we now had a product market fit. People like the product, they like the use case, and we're going to use it. So that's one thing. The second thing there is, where are you compared to the competition? So if you have product market fit and it looks like you're clearly distancing yourself from the competition, or at least doing better, then that's a good position to be in the A round. Some cases you have a situation where there are going to be 10 players, but you're going to be one of them. You're going to grab a good piece of this. In our space, it is, a winner takes it all, or like one big player at least. And it looked like we had a really good shot at that at the A round.
Amazing.
At the B round, you have to show some kind of, attraction. So if, for instance, for the B round, if you just take a couple of countries or one country, show some kind of business model there, then you can say, hey, we just need to multiply this by 30 as we launch in other countries. Then we have a model. So testing or something like that at the B round.
Cool. Amazing. Not cool. Amazing. Okay. So as a reminder to everyone watching, we have a bunch of people watching live. This is an AMA. I'm asking a bunch of questions that I had, but you guys can do that as well, just on the YouTube live or on our Slack channel. So don't be shy. I'm assuming that you live in San Francisco now.
Yep.
But how does this work? Like, when do you decide to move from your own country to the US?
So we're based in Copenhagen, Denmark. And when we raised the A round, I think it was pretty clear to us we were still in a competitive situation. And with a lot of consumer products, you got to win the US market. So our philosophy was, hey, if we win the US market, there's a very good chance that we'll win the world. So I moved to the US just after we raised our A round, and said, okay, we want to win the US market. We put out communication, marketing, all those things on the ground here in San Francisco. So that happened in 2013. We still have that split. So product engineering is still in Copenhagen, Denmark, and everything else is basically over here.
And that's actually what we do as well. And with the expensive cost of dev talent in the US, and I'm assuming that's an alternative for a lot of companies. Heidi, you've been with this company for 8 years now. And one of the biggest questions that we get asked on the community is about co-founders. How do you find a co-founder, and how do you keep that relationship safe? I've always said that co-founders, your relationship with your co-founders is like a marriage without the sex, because you get to deal with very tough decisions, but it's all related to the business. How do you find a co-founder originally, and how do you sustain that relationship through the years?
And it's like a marriage, and it can be even harder to divorce, right? So again, it's super duper important. It's and generally, there are solo founders out there, but I would recommend having a co-founder. You can cover more bases, and when hard times come along, it's great to have a co-founder. So I've been pretty fortunate there. My co-founder, Thijs, who's based in Copenhagen, we worked together for the past 19 years. So we'll have an anniversary soon. So the company before, we were also working together, and when Vivino came along, we worked together. So we found each other through random connections, and we just match each other really well in some way thinking the same way, in other ways being very different. So he's even more product, I'm more business, but we overlap each other and challenge each other on all those things. So I can't stress, how important, how it's insanely important. I've done a couple of videos on it actually, so you can check those out and how to find a co-founder and what I think is important in a co-founder. So do go check those out. But yeah, I think it's incredibly important to have an amazing co-founder.
And you mentioned you guys worked together on previous companies.
Yeah.
What did you do what was different this time? Was it more experience? Was it a better product? Was it a better product market fit? Why is Vivino so great and the other businesses are no longer around?
Yeah, good. So the other one is still around though, just to clarify. No, I think one thing, first of all, is that, I'm, how old am I? 46 years old now. I've been doing this for 25 years almost, some kind of entrepreneurship, right? And you really learn a lot when you do the first big one. So when we got to the second one, obviously timing and all those things just matched really well. At the same time, we'd also gotten better. We were better than 6, 7, 8 years before. I think that really matters. But generally, when it comes to the success of a startup, figuring out when to do it, what to do at the right time is very underestimated, I think. So when we look at our timing, we were just spot on the timing, not necessarily because we were smart, we just were. I mean, if you look at what was important for us, it was the app and the App Store. The iPhone launched in 2007. When we got to 9, 10, there was people were starting to really use it at scale, and we got there right there. The cameras were good enough. People were online. That's exactly what we needed to launch this product. Do this a year or two earlier, you'll spend a lot of resource for a very, very small audience. So timing is incredibly important.
Asking one of the first questions from the community. What comes next? What comes next for your company?
Yeah. So great question. The thing that's most important for us at this point is that we need to convert more people to actually buying on the marketplace. So we have 35 million users on the platform, and they're very active. They look up 2 million wines every single day, but only a small part of them are still buying. So we're spending a lot of time now on training them, saying to them, hey, Vivino is not only an app that you use to scan and rate a wine, you should actually buy it through Vivino too. So that's really what's important for us, and that's where we see a lot of growth right now.
Great. A comment from John. John is one of our top members in the community. He's always around. He's saying definitely interested in those finding at co-founder videos. So I'll link those on Raw Startup as soon as we wrap up, because I can't multitask so much.
Only so much.
All right, I'm all out of questions, Heini. I don't know if you have anything to add, or if you have anything else you want to discuss now that we're both starting a YouTube channel.
No, I'd also noticed you as you modestly mentioned you were number one on that particular keyword. So I think just you've done great, and I just started 10 months ago now, and it's small. It's 1,000 subscribers. But I'm picking it up quickly on how to do it right. And it's been really fun. And I love getting the feedback from users. I love that the feedback is incredibly positive. So I'm really humbled by that. I have a very specific style where I just go in and really try in 15 minutes and really boil down as much information as I can from my experience. And I think it's been a lot of fun. I'm sure you've experienced the same thing. For me, on the YouTube part, it's more giving back and so on. It's not. I don't have a clear commercial goal with it at this point, at least.
Yeah, for us, it's a bit like that. I found myself being very. as a general, we're very willing to sort of share our own experience, what we did wrong, what we did right. We're semi-transparent with our numbers, and we're always happy to share like big fuck ups that we did with our revenue and so on. And I found myself sort of being asked these questions and sharing this information, not at scale, with founders that I met and whatnot. And then this content ended up being very valuable on YouTube. When you share things insights that not a lot of people have, and by no means I'm absolutely sure that you have a lot more to share than I do. That's the stuff that people really engage with, especially if they can't find it anywhere else.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, you can read a book and stuff, but it takes a while to get a book out and so on. And I've been in the field raising money like very recently. I've been doing this very recently. I'm still doing it. So whatever I have there is like fresh information. I can put it right out there. And I call it raw startup because I'm going to be straightforward, and it's pretty raw. Like, doing startups is not easy. It's a lot of fun, but it's not easy.
We got a last minute question from Andrew. And we talked a little bit about it, but I think it's still relevant. How did you garner initial traction when you first launched the Vivino app?
Yeah, sure. It's definitely a hard one. I'll say a couple of things that have changed a little bit. In the early days, though, this is 2010 or so, you could actually get a little bit of traction organically from the App Store. I think that's really, really hard now, so you won't get a lot of that. But apart from that, I just used my network. I tried to do a little bit of press, and when you do a pretty shitty wine app early on, you're not getting interviewed by Wired just yet. So what I tried to do, one thing I tell people is just get someone to talk about it. If you know a blogger or something, like, just get some people to start talking about it. Don't try and get to Wired and so on. I'll tell you, we had a story about I had sent emails out to a few Android media as we launched our Android version. Said, hey, this is the first wine app for Android with image recognition. And then some random blog picked it up, and then we got lucky, and the Lifehacker was reading that blog, and then suddenly it was on Lifehacker too. But my tip on the PR side of getting attention is find someone who is similar size as you are and get out to those guys. Don't try and go for Wired and those guys. They get 1,000 emails a day, and you're not going to get through that filter. So find somebody at your size and level. You're much more likely to get some traction.
Great. Thanks a lot. I hope that answered your question, Andrew. I don't think you'll get a better answer today for that question. Heini, I'm all out of questions, like I said. It's been really fun to have you. I really appreciate your time. I know that you have a super busy schedule. But thanks a lot for joining us, and best of luck with not that you need it for Vivino, but best of luck with your new start of the YouTube channel, and happy to share that first and second place with you.
Thank you very much for having me on. It's been a pleasure.
Awesome. Have a great day. Goodbye.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot, everyone, for watching, and we'll see you next week.